I think that us as elder statesmen, us as I guess legends or legacy artists, it's our job, it's our obligation to usher in the new wave of talent.
Hi, and welcome everyone to today's keynote for MIDEM 2020. I am very excited to welcome two hip hop icons, US rapper T.I. and South African rapper Nasty C. My name is Samira Kalin, and I can't wait to get this conversation started here from Zurich about the global importance of hip hop. Thank you both for joining me today. And I just wanted to ask you guys, where exactly are you at the moment and how are you guys doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm at home right now in South Africa, in Johannesburg, my home studio.
I'm in my studio in Atlanta.
You're in your studio in Atlanta. Cool. Yeah,
Yes.
that's where you do your podcast, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So before we get started, I would like to give our viewers a quick overview of the milestones of the both of you. So if you don't mind, I'm going to get started with T.I. and then I'm going to go over to Nasty C, okay? So thanks to you, T.I., there has been an explosion of Southern hip hop and trap worldwide. And since the release of your album, Trap Music, over 15 years ago, this whole music genre literally exploded. You've had 10 albums, millions were sold, you've had more than 35 millions of singles sold, and your music has been streamed in the number of billions. You've won 3 Grammys, 11 Billboard Awards, and many more awards, including the ASCAP Voice of the Culture Award. You're not only a rapper, but you are also a groundbreaking entrepreneur. With your own record label, Grand Hustle Records, your co-ownership of AKOO or AKU and Hustle Gang Clothing, you are the owner of the Supersound Studio in Atlanta. The #1 podcast Expeditiously has gone around the world. We've seen and learned from you in the BET series, The Grand Hustle, your Netflix series, Rhythm and Flow. You have your own show on VH1, T.I. and Tiny, Friends and Family Hustle, and you are the creator of the first ever trap museum in Atlanta. Also, you're known for your philanthropic work and influence in the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's a real pleasure. I will go over to Nasty C. You have been called the coolest kid in Africa. You were the most streamed South African artist on Apple Music for 4 years in a row, with 120 million streams of your album Strings and Bling. You're a multi-award winning rapper. You've recently signed a deal with Def Jam Records, and you have your third album, Zulu Man, with some power in the pipeline. You, as we just heard, you've just had your acting debut in the South African Netflix series Blood and Water, and you've even released a song for the score. You're also known to use your voice and to bring the world to Africa. By actually having toured many continents in the world, you're also known to taking Africa to the world right now. So I would say people are asking themselves right now, why am I sitting with the both of you in this keynote? And I would like to dive into this question right away, asking you, Nasty C. I've heard it was a lifelong dream of you to meet T.I. Can you tell us about the story and how it came about that the beautiful relationship with you and T.I. actually began?
Yeah, so this all started when I was about 9 years old. I used to take this bus to school every day, and they had a little drop screen like inside the bus. They used to play a lot of R&B and just hip hop, right? And I never really paid attention to music until I heard Top Back Remix with Jeezy, and then it was when Ti was rapping. That's my first music memory ever. And that's the first time I really started paying attention to music. And ever since that day, man, I've always just been a fan. After that day, I went and got a couple more of like songs from him, like the albums and stuff. And I started writing from that day on and making music. And when he was in South Africa about a year or 2 years ago, I think he was in Cape Town shooting something. He reached out to me, and that was pretty crazy to me, and that's how the relationship started, I guess.
Wow. So since you were a kid, so actually, if your 7-year-old self would see you right now doing this conversation, it wouldn't believe that this is real, right?
Yeah.
So Ti,
Man.
can you tell us your point of view of how the two of you connected in the end?
Yeah, certainly. I had the pleasure of spending an extended period of time in South Africa during the filming of a movie, a film called Monster Hunter that comes out later this year, I believe in September. And while I was there, of course, you know, whenever I visit, we visit a country, especially when there's an extended period of time on our hands, we like to just kind of dive into the culture, you know, find out the music, the nightlife, the hood, the restaurants, you know, just all of the things that, you know, make this country or make this city what it is. And during that time, um, as we submerged into the culture. Nasty C was kind of like, we kept hearing his name, kept hearing his music, didn't know much about him, hadn't heard about him, and I started wondering, yo, this kid is dope. He reminds me of me a little bit. Why haven't I heard of him? You know what I'm saying? And then like not knowing anything about the story, not knowing anything about uh like how you know he began in music. I just reached out to him, you know, and told him just, you know, I thought his shit was dope. And we've been exchanging, you know, DMs and text messages. And, you know, then he sent me a record. And, you know, of course, I hopped on it. And, you know, we've made plans to do more music in the future.
Amazing. Just quick question, RCC, to get the emotions of this. How did it feel when Ti pops up, you know, on your Instagram in the DMs? Like, how does that feel?
It was crazy. It felt so unreal, man. That was the first time ever in my life finding out. Like I've never found out. I've never been the type of person to get starstruck. But when I got that DM, I literally had to step outside like and catch some air and shit. And I had to call my brother and tell him. And I called everybody else, like my managers and stuff. So it was real. It's crazy.
Cool. So hip hop is the most streamed genre in the world right now. I was wondering what happens when two countries or even two cultures or two continents connect musically, because this is what's happening with the two of you right now. I'll hand over the question to Ti.
I mean, from my perspective, it's growth, evolution. Of course, Nasty C has so much to offer the game from his vantage point, from his perspective, from his generation, from his country, his continent, and even down to his hood. You know, his experiences are unique to him and his life and his lifestyle. The same for mine. You know, my experiences are unique to my life, my lifestyle, my culture, my hood, and where I come from. And the culmination of those two things, I think, is what hip hop was made to do, and that's bring people together and focus on the things that unite us more so than we focus on the things that divide us.
What about you, Nasty C? How do you see the beauty of two places uniting musically?
I definitely agree with what Tip says. You know, it helps us connect a bit more, and the more we do that, the more people stop looking at people from another country as strangers or whatever, and we celebrate our culture together, and we just promote cross pollination, for lack of a better term. You know,
Right
we
on.
cross over to their borders, and we get a bit of their fan base, and they get a bit of ours, and we exchange information and start to understand each other a bit more. You know?
Absolutely.
So, Ti, you've been known for collaborations in the past with major US artists such as Jay-Z, Kanye West, Beyonce, Canadian rapper Drake. My question for you is, when did the turning point for you come to start collaborating with artists around the world, including Nasty C, and why is it important to you?
The first opportunity I got, man, I kind of hopped on it. I remember coming to Paris years ago, probably like around 2006, something like that, and doing, and kind of meeting the rappers on the scene at the time, and just beginning to vibe and create relationships then. And of course there was a bit more of a language barrier between France and America, which kind of complicated things just a tad bit. However, there was a mutual respect. I respected their culture, and they respected ours. But that's when the thought hit my head, like, if we're able to successfully bring our cultures together, it would be a win-win. Not just for us, but for the audience as well.
Okay, so you've started collaborating with artists around the world already way back. This is nothing new to you.
Well, I mean, true, but at the time, like they weren't as established, or they hadn't cemented themselves in their place as Nasty C has. Like Nasty C has already kind of exhibited and maintained a certain significant level of dominance, over a period of time, which kind of makes the collaboration a lot more special. Whenever there's someone who has a certain notoriety that you don't, it enhances the opportunity. And I think there's, especially him being so young and he's so dope and just has, such a fresh set of ears, such a fresh mind, and sees the world through like, just a fresh set of eyes. Like I think that to me is what collaboration should be about, especially once you reach, a certain level in the game.
And Nasty C, how important has it been for you to receive the support from US artists, especially, US hip hop artists? And how important has it been for you to sign to Def Jam for your career, for your life?
For me personally, it's always just been about the artist being dope. It doesn't really matter where the artist is from. That's never been a factor to me, I've gotten I've been blessed to be able to travel the world like this, and everywhere I go I always try and connect with the artists there just because they're dope, and not because they're where I went. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And can you maybe give us an anecdote of that one time where you connected with an international artist or a hip hop artist from the US where everything changed, or that, blew your mind?
I guess the instant with T.I. would have to be the only one really that really affected me like that, and like held a special place in my heart type shit. But other than that, it's always just been just a cool collab. But with T.I. is different because this is something that I've always just dreamed about, and I've always just looked at him as an idol, as somebody that I wanted to be like one day, and for him to recognize me like that, having been responsible for me even picking up a pen to begin with, and recognize my talent and say, yo, I want to actually work with you. That was very special to me. That has to be the only one, really.
So, as I understand, you guys, this is probably, normal to you to meet on the screen, but you guys have actually never met in real life. Is that true?
Yeah, that's crazy. But
We never, damn, okay. You know what? I hadn't even thought about it. Like we done spoke, we spoke so much on the phone and on text and, exchange music back and forth. It never dawned on me that we hadn't met in person yet.
Crazy. And this is so
Soon
normal
come.
in today's world.
schedules.
Hey.
Yeah.
Um,
With Corona, nothing is easy. We would have met in Cannes.
I know. On the beach, sun, rosé. I know. Believe me, we would all love to be there.
Soon enough.
Very soon, yeah. Often I get the feedback from brands, I would say from the more conservative brands, that they have a concern about the hip hop music stereotypes. What's your take on that, T.I.?
Okay, well, let's go to the reason that brands, conservative brands, come to hip hop, the reason they come to hip hop in the first place. And that is to reach a certain demographic that they wouldn't normally be able to reach, and show them an ability to relate. And that's what hip hop does. Hip hop relates to so many people globally because it started in a community that felt voiceless, a community that no one understood or cared to hear about what was going on in this community. And hip hop became the voice for the voiceless. And hip hop is a trusted voice now. And now, if you connect yourself to hip hop, you become familiar to a demographic of people who may not know your brand, and you may not know these people. But hip hop is the common denominator. It's the bridge. Now, of course, with that is going to come, because when there's pain in a community, when there's pain within a certain demographic of people, there's going to be some negative downside somewhere, shape, form, or fashion. Now, the upside is there's heightened awareness to your brand. I think that it's you can't compare the amount of eyes and ears and attention that you get when you align yourself, your company, your business with hip hop. And I mean, I think that, we've been proven for decades, how formidable of a partner hip hop has been to corporations. The thing is that, usually corporations come in and they try to suck all the culture out of it, suck all the business out of the culture. And after the business is done, the culture kind of has to rejuvenate itself. We have to find ways for hip hop and corporations to coexist, where they receive less downside from the stereotypes and we receive less downside from the corporations kind of selfishly sucking out resources, because big business has been known to kill culture.
Nasty C, can you tell us about your experiences with brand partnerships?
Yeah. In my experiences, it's very different from what Tip says. With us in South Africa, hip hop is fairly new, and there hasn't been any incidences that might make brands scared to collaborate with hip hop acts, I guess. So it's not like that. Brands down here really look at artists and judge them for their individual character, for what they stand for and what they represent. So I've never really had a problem with that. Like, brands approach, even the highest brands approach artists here confidently, purely based on what the artist represents and how the public perceives the artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's very.
If I may, moreover, I do believe, from an American standpoint, as it pertains to corporations, especially in my experience, whatever those stereotypes are, it usually comes as a cost of authenticity. The more authentic of an artist you are, the more time you will spend in certain environments that will make you more high risk. However, it's a more authentic artist that you're associated with, so he's going to reach the eyes and ears of people and be trusted a lot more than, someone who you may consider a safe bet.
I love that you're touching upon the topic authenticity when it comes to brand. I would like to develop further on this. So one example is Nicki Minaj, right? She went into a brand partnership with MAC. People said that was authentic because she was already using MAC cosmetics since she was a young girl. Then we had Lil Wayne, who collaborated with Samsung, and he only started loving the brand through the partnership, or the Samsung phone. Now, how important, now going back into another direction of it, but how important is authenticity of the collaboration between the artist and the brand? You've already touched upon it, but maybe Nasty C, what's your take on authenticity and brand collaborations?
Yeah, I think it's very important. In my experience, I've had to turn down a lot of brands just because I felt like the relationship wouldn't work, purely because I wasn't a fan of the brand to begin with, so it wouldn't have been authentic. You know, I feel like for some reason I feel like people can kind of sense when you're just doing something for a check and you're not really invested in it. You know what I mean? So all the brands that I've taken on, I took on. These are brands I wanted to work with before we even met, before I even blew up. You know.
Ti, I would like to hear from you talking about fans. Do you take the fans' opinions into consideration when entering a brand partnership?
Well, I think you have to listen to the fans because at the end of the day, they are the people that the corporation are entrusting you to reach on their behalf. So, if let's just say if there is a tea company, there's a tea company that I have an opportunity to do a partnership with, and for some reason, this particular tea company has not been, I guess, have not been fair to people of color. I would not then align myself with this particular brand to come to people of color and say, hey guys, let's do this, because at this point, I'm being used. You know what I'm saying? I'm being used, so this particular corporation will not have to uh, go and adhere to whatever the concerns are of this demographic. That's not a good partnership. And a lot of people do it, and a lot of people make great amounts of money from it. However, it's kind of like it's very transactional. You know what I'm saying? And I think that hip hop was built on on the thought and the idea of longevity. And I wouldn't be able to still sit here to you sit I wouldn't still be able to sit here with you 20 years later if I was just grabbing checks and running without any passion or any genuine interest in the things that I represent.
Thanks. And I would like to compare, even though that's hard, but I would like to compare sports and music for a moment. How does a brand profit when collaborating with a music artist as opposed to a sports person? Nasty C, what's your take on that?
I think that they benefit more when they work with an artist because, especially with hip hop, because with hip hop, it's a lifestyle. So it's not like we dress like this for the hour that we're playing or whatever, and then change into something completely different right afterwards. This is us. So this is what we live. You know what I mean? So when they work with people like that, it says more. It's more of a lifestyle, and it's something that fans see and believe, and it's something that's real. You know what I mean? Versus just having it on for the time being, and then the next minute you're somebody completely different.
Ti, would you like to share some thoughts on this topic as well?
When you go to Yeezy, you going for lifestyle. You going, you know what I'm saying, to carry out your day. The things that you do from the time you wake up to the time you lay down is not utility driven. And I think that when you have lifestyle pieces, people who attribute to lifestyle, then you spend more time. You spend more time with these pieces than you do with something that's more utility driven.
And I would like to ask you as well, Ti. Clearly, the music world is getting smaller and knows no more borders. However, we might have a global economy, yet some brands tend to support the artist only locally. What do you think about that?
I mean, I believe until the creators have complete control over the use and licensing of the culture, you'll always have, brands who pick and choose and play favorites and, you know, pin one against the other. But I think that, together as a community, of creatives, artists, curators. We have the power, and we should maintain that power and that influence, and use it to not just to benefit ourselves individually, but to benefit the culture as a collective as we move forward into the future. So we'll have something to pass down to the next generation of artists, creators, and curators.
And talking about the world being one place, we're all global at the moment. I would like to get back to the question of how have the two of you created a record together over the ocean? If you can give us one more insight on how that worked.
So right after Tip reached out to me, I already had this one song that I made that kind of reminded me of a song he did with Rihanna, "Live Your Life." I don't know, it kind of gave me that feeling, and I just felt like he'd be perfect for it. And I sent it to him, and it took a little while for him to respond. I was a little nervous. I was like, man, I probably should have done something a little harder or whatever. But this one time I was in Portugal just shooting a video, and I got the email. And when I listened to it, I just really relived the other moment all over again. I just felt like, you know what I mean? Like, this cannot be happening. It felt unreal.
I mean, for me, man, yeah, for me, it was an honor, you know, because of course once you kind of establish yourself over a period of time, the 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 young generation is coming in, looking to establish themselves. They often, you know, rebel against whatever their predecessors may have been doing. So for him to have for there to be a mutual respect was, you know what I'm saying, it was great for me, and I was honored to do it because I think that us as elder statesmen, us as, I guess, legends or legacy artists, it's our job, it's our obligation to support and just kind of help usher in the new wave of talent to make sure that the right ones assume the right positions.
T.I., as we've heard, you have created the first ever trap museum in the world, and it's in Atlanta. You have more than 70% of the people coming that are actually international. Why do you think it's important, first of all, for people all over the world to learn and know about trap? And my second question would be, is there any way that people overseas, people in Europe, can somehow get a chance of seeing everything you're showing at your museum?
Well, let's see here. Well, first of all, the Trap Music Museum was initially supposed to be a temporary installment, like a pop-up, to celebrate or commemorate 15 years of trap music. And the way we intended to do that was to celebrate the most significant contributors to the genre, past, present, and recognize those who would be in the genre for the future. Now the reception has been so positive. I don't think we could close the doors if we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have kind of just shown up in droves, lines wrapped around the corner week after week to come in and immerse themselves into the culture of trap music. And it was meant, the purpose for it was to be information to people who are not as familiar with the culture and the origins of trap music, and inspiration to those of us who are all too familiar with the culture of trap music, letting them know that there is a way out. You can take your circumstances and create a positive outcome from it. You're not defined by your environment unless you allow yourself to be. And I think that the culmination of those two applications, I think, had just kind of just knocked it out of the park, fortunately. And I'm just humbled to be able to tell our stories before someone else outside of our culture tried to do it for us.
Thanks for that contribution to culture. And I wanted to ask you one more question. Is there a hint or something that will happen with the Trap Museum, UTI, Cannes, Midem? Is there anything we can look forward to, maybe hopefully next year?
Well, there has been some discussion about bringing an installation of the Trap Music Museum to Cannes for the Midem event. Now, of course, the pandemic kind of put that on ice, that idea on ice. However, this too shall pass, and the future will be here before we know it. So let's just plan on next year, people in Cannes being able to come and absorb the environment of the Trap Music Museum for themselves personally.
Great. We can't wait to see you in Cannes next year and to learn everything about trap. Thank you so much. I wanted to thank the two of you. I wanted to thank the two of you for your time. I know you've got busy schedules despite everything that's happening in the world. It's so amazing that we can connect here on Zoom for everyone listening in the whole world. Thanks for your time and thanks for your contribution when it comes to music.
Watch your favorite episodes of Expeditiously right now on the Expeditiously YouTube page.